So I would say this is Jeff.
This is David.
Hi, David.
Hi, Jeff.
Let's play Monster Hunter.
I clipped a little there. Sorry, hold on. I got very excited.
No, that's fine. I can fix it in post. It's fine. Best time to play Monster Hunter. I love this series. I love this game, and hopefully it can help you just a little bit to get into it because they've reduced the hurdles.
Still there.
It's still a mogul course. So there are 14 different weapon types in the game, and if you're starting out, the weapon that you choose can really make or break your enjoyment of the first part of the game. And first impressions are very important, naturally. Yep. In Monster Hunter, each weapon has its own unique moveset, its own unique meters. So I'd liken it to a fighting game character. Let's go over them in the briefest of terms, just to try and get like just a feeling of the weapon.
Yes, yeah, sword and shield. Real basic. You have a sword, you have a shield. It's the only class where you can use items and your little launchy thing without
the slinger. Yes,
slinger without sheathing your weapon.
Your shield bash can stun things. You've got a cool backdash move where if it connects, you can vault up into the air. Dual blades is about the feeling of standing in a place and then whirling your arms around and seeing a bunch of numbers pop up of something, as if you were like Lisa and Bart in that old Simpsons episode.
Yeah, where he's just swinging his arms around and she's kicking.
Swing your arms, and we're just gonna walk forward. And if you get hit, it's your own fault. I love the charge blade. It's very complicated. It's complicated in the sense of it has two modes because there's a sword and shield, so it's kind of like a trick weapon, like in Bloodborne, where it can convert into a giant axe. You can gather energy from fighting, and then you can store the energy in the sword. You can store the energy in the shield, and you can expel it in huge, damaging like explosions. Switch axe. The general feeling of it is: do you like giant weapons with infinite combos? That you can also end with an attack that literally stab into the monsters and then they take you with them as you constantly charge up the Mega Buster style before exploding. If this appeals to you, I think that the switch axe might be for you.
Here's the litmus test for a longsword. Do you want to be a samurai? Because if you want to be a samurai, you should use the longsword.
It has an invincible parry move where if you get hit during the parry, you can instantly transition into, spirit combo and the spirit round slash, and then powers up the meter. And
Jeff, focus. Okay. Do you want to be Cloud? Then go with the great sword.
Let's see. The one they give you, the starting tier 1 great sword, is even just called a Buster Sword.
It is. Yes.
So if you don't like to see a bunch of numbers, but you like to see a few numbers, but those numbers are very big. The lance is a defensive weapon, but its mobility is much greater than it initially seems. It's all about constant pokes and being right in the face of the monster. It's very satisfying to just stand in front of a monster, see their attack coming, power guard. Their attack is nullified, turned into energy that you then put right back in their face, and you're just constantly stabbing. Gun lance style, I'd suggest looking more into. You can put a shell blast at the end of each of your hits if you want. You can charge them up Mega Man style to do more damage, which also does like piercing. But you can also explode the entire clip at once. And you can do a very, very awesome looking reload animation inside of an infinite combo. I love the hammer a lot. It's so good. Do you like just like smashing faces? Because that's really the hammer does.
That's all it does.
That's it. Very good at it. It has the best sliding attack in the game.
It's really great.
It's so good.
Spin to win.
The Hunting Horde is a great hammer. That is also a musical instrument that you can do performances. So if you want to be a bard that uses a hammer that's twice as big as the hammer users, this might be for you. All of the notes and the songs as you play them are attacks. So you want to, ideally you'll be doing both at the same time. The insect glaive is a spear. Kind of. It's glaive, I guess.
It's a glaive. Yes.
It has a lot of awesome sort of spinny combos and a very much forward flipping, backward flipping to reposition kind of thing. And of course you have a little insect buddy called a Kinsect. It's the only weapon in the game that has a neutral jump. I find it also very satisfying to vault and then air dash out of the way.
Away,
when you're
run
like,
away!
I'm gone, away. The last 3 types of weapons in the game are the ranged weapons, starting with the light bow gun. These are a little bit more traditional third-person shooter kind of things, where, you know,
Sort
like
of, yeah,
left trigger,
yeah.
right trigger. You like the idea of shooting things like a third-person shooter, but you want to have more mobility and sort of like traps. The light bow guns have proximity mines that just regenerate over time as their sort of like class benefit, so to speak.
We are going to talk about the heavy bow gun. Do you want to be Arnold Schwarzenegger from Terminator 2 with the minigun, just wasting fools and not worrying about it? Actually, didn't kill anybody that scene. Not important.
Didn't waste fools, but
Can you move real fast? No. Do you need to? Not at all. But its special thing is you load, you have a meter that charges up, and then when you hit B, you load your special ammo, which is one of 2 kinds. It is the minigun, where you
which
just...
is awesome.
It's great. And then there is the 50 cal. So the bow is if you want range, but you don't really want to worry about ammo types, and you want to dodge. You want to do all the dodging, because bow is a charge weapon that you can either hold down the trigger to charge, or every time you dodge, you just automatically charge up another level. So you can shoot, dodge, shoot, dodge, shoot, dodge, and just do that till your stamina runs out, and you're just flipping all over everywhere, and nothing can hit you, and it's wonderful.
So now that you have a weapon that you want, at least an idea of a weapon you want to try and learn more about, there's some things to just mention about what options that are very helpful. In this game, if you hold L1 or left bumper when you're out on a hunt, you can get your shortcut menu, which is a radial menu, and you can pick from 8 different directions of quick items, and you can set those yourself, which we'll mention. But type 2 will make it so you have to click in the stick to confirm the selection.
Right.
I'd also recommend switching the camera view to far position. Also, this is just a quality of life, but you can, like in some other video games like Mass Effect and whatever, you can actually turn off your headgear. Here's some unintuitive tips and tricks to just get you started.
Mm-hmm.
This is a game where when you're out fighting, there's 2 distinct modes. This is very basic. It's you're unsheathed, so your weapon's out, or you're sheathed, your weapon isn't out. And you can run around and use items when your weapon is sheathed, except for the sword and shield, which is a little bit of a special case. If you are in a bad situation, you have to disengage, and by sheathing so that you can run, so that you can dodge better. There's like a Superman dodge, which is where you just kind of like splay out and jump away. It's great. And that particular dodge happens when you're sheathed, so your weapon isn't out. You're running, so you're holding down the run button, which is typically R1 or right bumper, but you can switch that around. And also you're facing directly away from the monster. It saves you from literally anything in the game. It is useful from beginning to end. There's a lot of crafting in the game. There's lots of carving of monsters. When you kill them, you can carve pieces off of them. You can gather things from plants and different resource nodes in the game. You can mine things. If you hold down the mining button, B button or circle button, just hold it down, and your character will keep doing it until the resource node is gone.
Right,
or
and it's a faster animation after the first one.
Also, when you're at the end of a hunt, it'll give you a dramatic sort of camera angle of defeating the monster as it goes into its death throes.
Right.
As you do missions over and over again, or you're helping other people out on SOS calls, you can actually just skip that.
Yep.
By pressing the start button, or whatever the equivalent is. You can use that time to just like gather a few extra materials before, the end of quest countdown pulls you away, which is a Monster Hunter thing.
Yeah.
Most actions in the game can be sped up by holding the dash button. That includes climbing. Similarly, if you want to jump off of a ledge, if you are dashing and you roll, much like Zelda Ocarina of Time. So if you like roll to the edge, you'll automatically jump off. By default, you'll always have the capture net. The capture net is so good.
It's so great. It's infinite and it's wonderful.
It's infinite, but you can use it to capture pets and put them in your room.
You
just go around and collect pets. They also give you resource points, which is great. An important part of the game is loadouts. Of course, like in any game where you have gear and you have lots of gear, you want to have different loadouts for different situations. At the beginning of the game, I would recommend, though, having just two loadouts for equipment. But so, like one where it's like, this is the thing I want to do when I'm hunting monsters, and this is the thing I want to do when I'm just gathering stuff. There is also item loadouts, which I'd argue is much more important in this game and even more confusing.
Darn near vital, and boy howdy.
Boy howdy. Oh boy.
Because something they don't tell you is that item loadouts save your radial menu customization.
Yes. This is so confusing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just pause, you can go customize radial menu, and there's 4 different ones, which are controlled by like the D-pad. And you can set them to anything. It could be a crafting recipe. It could be like a short chat message. It could be a sticker. So you save all those things and you like name them something useful. Like, oh, this is my hunting, radial menu. And then you go back to your item loadout and you load your item loadout and it erases everything you just did.
because you didn't save it as a loadout.
It's very important and not mentioned that the shortcuts on your radial menu are tied to your item loadout. So get your item loadout the way you want, get your shortcut wheel the way you want, then save the item loadout to the item loadout menu. Crafting is a very important part of Monster Hunter. There are lots and lots of items. It can be very daunting.
Like it streamlines it all very, very much. So pick the end item you want, and then it'll walk you through all the steps. You don't have to go, okay, I need to make this, and then I need to make this. It does it for you. You still have to get all the stuff, but you don't have to like memorize production trees, which is great.
For the beginning of the game, the thing you want is honey.
Come see me.
Yes.
I'd say that if you're like, I don't have time to memorize all the crafting list, I get it. and
Yeah.
you don't have to, and you shouldn't, really. Honey, when combined with an herb, gives you a mega potion, and mega potions are used from the beginning of the game to the end of the end game. And honey you can get out in the field. There's a few places in the ancient forest which are pretty convenient and just kind of run around this little area, and then there's one in the south side that's pretty obvious when you first go, because like basically the very first time you walk through there, it's like, hey, there's honey here. As soon as you fight your first electric boy in the game, you'll have access to the farm, the Botanical Research Center, and that means that you can just tell them, I want you to grow this for me as I'm out on quests. And at the beginning of the game, honey is a great thing to do at the beginning.
Right.
If you want to get a little bit more advanced than that, I would say that the things you would want after that are what you need for capturing monsters, which is actually require traps and tranquilizers. Tranquilizers, you're going to be needing sleep herbs and parashrooms,
right.
Which the best way is just like this little route just through the south side of Wildspire. There's just a group of sleep herbs in the southern sort of muck-filled area, sort of swampland, and you kind of go through a little cave, usually where the Kuliaku and the Bear Oth are stomping around, and there's parashrooms right there too. You go through there, you have enough to craft, like a few extra tranquilizers. And then for the actual traps, you'll need thunderbugs and trap tools, mainly. So thunderbugs, when combined with trap tools, give you, your sort of like shock trap, sort of paralysis trap. Monster walks over it, and then they're just there. They're stuck for a little while.
Right. Did you say we have to buy trap tools? You can't.
Oh, yes.
You can't find them. You have to buy them.
Yes. There's a dude in town. He's standing on the stockpile. There's a thing. There are tutorials in the game for doing capturing monsters. You can tranquilize before you trap, because it only takes the 2 tranquilizers to put them in the sort of tranquilized state. But there is no indication that they're in the tranquilized state. But they also have to be low health, and they have to be trapped, which is why you would be making all the traps to put onto the monsters.
Right.
I personally prefer trapping first,
And then tranquilizing.
but that's personal preference. Like, you can totally do it the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
Other than the limping, you can also watch the EKG meter for the monsters, which appears in the lower left of the screen. There will be little icons representing the large monsters that are in the area. And if you look at the icon for the one that you're currently fighting, it will be a flat line, basically. So,
Right, which is, once they start lipping, if they're a lot more mobile than you are, you can't flash them or whatever, they're going back to their nest, so learning where all the nests are is really easy. And just run there, they'll be asleep, pop the trap, pop the trank bombs, and you've got yourself a fresh new monster.
anytime you do aerial damage, you'll fill up like an invisible mount meter. So it's like a status effect you can apply to monsters, where you'll jump on their back, The thing is that there's 3 positions on a monster. It's like tail, back, head. But if you use like the left stick, you can move from one of those places to another and continue your attack. Let's say 90% of the time, the attack they're doing against you only affects one of the 3 regions. The thing I want to say about Slinger is that you can get Scatter Nuts, which also Crystal Burst, much later on. These always 100% cause a flinch for all monster types. Multiplayer is the funnest part of this game. Just doing random SOSs where you're just like, I just want to help somebody. It's very much for me like doing Ornstein and Smog kind of co-op help in Dark Souls 1. If you want to cooperate with your friends, it is unfortunately more difficult than it needs to be. There's an idea of a session, which is like up to 16 people that are just loosely connected in networking terms. If you want to go on let's say like a hunt with your friend, you have to be in the same multiplayer session. And then even when you're in the same session, if you're doing a main quest, and this is another dumb thing, you can't join until the host has seen the cutscenes once in the mission. You know, there's like the gameplay loop, the idea of a gameplay loop, but like the thing that you do that keeps you playing the game. And Monster Hunter's loop, I find extremely enjoyable. Where it's you take a quest, and you're like, all right, I want this loadout. I've got this equipment. I've got these items with my radial menu saved on them. I'm going to go to the canteen to this really buff cat. He's going to fix me a meal. It's going to give me extra damage, extra health for the mission. And you go out there, explore, you pick up some plants, you pick up a new pet, you fight the monster, you go back to town, you're like, ooh, what new gear do I get? You're like, oh, that's kind of cool. I don't know if I want to make all of it, but maybe I'll make this sword. And then you make some for your cat, which is also great.
Yeah.
You're like, that looks really cool on my cat. I'm going to make new kitty armor out of this monster. And you're like, all right, we're going off and we're starting another quest.
I'm going to give my kitty his own little bathysphere armor. It's going to be great.
And then that's the appeal of Monster Hunter. It's that loop, go out with friends or random people, get cool looking armor, get cool weapons. If you enjoy the guide and the content we do have a Patreon if you would like to help us out with that. And we will be making a lot more Monster Hunter World videos because it is on my mountain of like best games.
It's on your Rushmore. Monster Hunter.